So here's our Power Pivot model consisting of 7 tables. We went through the process of refining the model metadata, specifying format settings. But as usually happens, requirements change, and sometimes we have to import additional data. So suppose that besides reseller sales, now you have to analyze sales to customers, to internet customers, and you have to import 3 more tables from the AdventureWorks database. Now, instead of creating a new connection, it's important to actually reuse an existing connection. So in our case, we already actually have a connection to the AdventureWorks database. By reusing the connection, you save yourself some management effort, because if your connection string changes, you don't have to go and update multiple connections. To reuse the existing connections, and in fact to see all connections that are defined in the Power Pivot model, go to the Design ribbon and click on Existing Connections. And in our case, again, we want to use the AdventureWorks DW connection to import 3 more tables. So with that connection selected, click the Open button. Now, this is not very intuitive. The Open button wouldn't typically mean that you want to import additional tables, but that's exactly what we need to do here. And since we'll be importing entire tables, instead of specifying custom select queries, we'll leave the default option selected and click Next. And then we're going to select the dim customer, dim geography, and fact internet sales tables. Now again, during the import process, we could filter data. So with the fact internet sales table selected, let's go and preview and filter. Let's click the preview and filter button and just go through the columns and see which columns actually we don't need to import. For example, the revision number column is not that useful probably for analysis, as well as the last 2 columns, which are career tracking number and customer PO number. Again, the less data you import in the model, the better. Let's specify a friendly name for this table as internet sales. This will map to the name of the table once the table is imported in Power Pivot. Let's specify a friendly name geography for the dim geography table and customer for dim customer table. And let's click Finish to go and import these tables. Again, at the end of the import process, Power Pivot gives you a data preparation summary. And it's a good idea to click on the details to see if there are some interesting information. For example, in this case, Power Pivot has detected 2 relationships, from the customer table to geography table, and from internet sales table to customer table. Those relationships are defined in the database, and Power Pivot automatically picks up those relationships and will carry them to the model. Click Close to create these 3 tables, to add these 3 tables to the Power Pivot model. Now, another common management task that you have to know about is refreshing data, because the moment you import data into Power Pivot, the data is essentially becomes stale, since there is no automatic mechanism for Power Pivot to go and synchronize data with changes in the data sources. Which means that if the data in the data warehouse has changed, our model will not pick up changes automatically. So we have to do manually, and Power Pivot has several ways to synchronize data. For example, suppose that you know that only the reseller sales data has changed in the data source. So instead of going and refreshing all the tables, you can just re-import the data into the reseller sales table. To do that, we'll select reseller sales, and then we will go to the Home tab and we will click refresh. Or we can expand. Actually, refresh will refresh only the active table, the one that is selected, currently selected in the model. And as you can see, that's exactly what the data refresh dialog box is telling us, that only reseller sales has been refreshed. Now what about if we want to refresh all tables in the model from all the data sources? Then what we can do is to expand the refresh drop down and click refresh all. What this will do will establish connections to all the data sources and will sequentially import data for each table. And finally, there is a third refresh option which we can find in the design tab, ribbon tab, and then we'll click on the existing connections one more time. This option allows us to refresh tables that are connected to a specific connection. For example, if I want to refresh only the tables that use the AdventureWorks DW connection, I can select this connection and then I can click refresh. And what's going to happen is that only the tables, again, that are associated with that connection are going to be refreshed. In our case, these are we have 5 tables connected to the AdventureWorks data warehouse.